Hi, everyone. How are you? I only see Tom's face. Everyone else is shy today. Okay. Um, I will dive in with some updates. We have 363 confirmed cases. And that is, I don't recall the number I gave you because we update things as we go along yesterday, but it's about on par with what we had yesterday. I don't think that that is an indication that we are flattening out the curve. This is more of the timeline when we get data. I've noticed the state also usually posts data around 3 or 4 p.m. and they have not posted data today either. So I would just caution the media about reading into that 363 number. We do have 13 deaths reported. A couple of other important things to note, and I also wanted to hand it over to New Haven Public Schools in a second to talk in detail about some of the changes that are going to occur with the grab-and-go meals. But the hotel that we've been working on for individuals experiencing homelessness to move them out of in West Haven has actually been secured now, and most people have moved in. There are 99 individuals that have moved into that hotel. Our goal has been 300 for quite some time, and between the two hotels that we have people in right now, we have 99 plus 95. So that's what, 194 total. Is that right? Did I do that right? So we're still working on another hotel, but are happy that we made some progress with this site in West Haven. The career high school site is ready to go, and we are now we have notified the hospital, and we're awaiting the hospital to discharge individuals that may be appropriate for this facility. There's been so much work that's gone into this site from our team. I'm very proud of the work that's been done. Frankly, it's a real relief that we have this option for people to self-isolate. I wanted to highlight that Passover and Easter Sunday are coming up. Passover obviously quickly later than Easter Sunday. And I've been so impressed with the amount of social distancing that we have seen people practicing in New Haven. And there's been some very cautious discussion about how it appears the social distancing is helping us reduce the speed of the rise in cases. And so I want to encourage people to keep that up through the holidays and beyond. It's so important that we do this to get our hands around and control the virus spread, and just wanted to make sure that people continue to do the good work that they're doing by practicing social distancing. Why don't I hand it over to Dr. Tracy and Mr. Pinto to share some information on the change in meal distribution for public school students.
So thank you, Mayor. So I just want to alert everyone that New Haven Public Schools will be on April break, commencing the 13th through the 17th. We will continue to distribute food during vacation time. However, it will just be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And this form of distribution, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, will continue after we return from vacation to lessen the amount of contact that our frontline workers will have during the food distribution time. And so tomorrow, Friday, which is Good Friday, there is no food distribution. Tomorrow, Thursday, we will distribute enough supplies for the families for Friday. So that's where we are with our part of reporting right now, unless Mr. Pinto has additional things to add.
No, Dr. Tracy, I think that covers it. Yeah, just to reiterate, we will be closed and the buildings will be empty on Friday in observance of Good Friday. And then we will do Monday, Wednesday, Friday distribution, still from 9 to 12 as planned or as previously scheduled, but just Monday, Wednesday, Friday, starting on April 13th, Monday, April 13th. And we will be adding, just to clarify, we will be, when people come on Monday, we'll be giving them meals for Monday and for Tuesday, so that they're, and same, obviously Wednesday they'll get meals for Wednesday and Thursday, and then Friday they'll get meals for Friday and for weekend days.
And it would be very helpful if the press could help us get that information out, because there's thousands of families that are currently relying on these meals. The purpose of it is twofold. One, to reduce the number of times that people have to go out of their homes to pick up meals. Since we're encouraging people to only go out for essential trips and otherwise to stay home as much as possible, we're trying to facilitate that more as well. And the second purpose is to reduce the exposure or any potential exposure and use of PPE by our staff. And so we believe that this is a positive step for everyone, and that because they will be providing food for multiple days on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, that the amount of food distribution and food access will be the same. So again, this Thursday, there will be meals provided for Thursday and Friday. And then moving forward, food will be distributed at the same locations Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But adequate food will be distributed on each day to make up for those days that are not being distributed. Director Bond, do you have anything you wanted to share? No, you're good to go. So I wanted to finish by, there's been a lot of discussion about, a lot of brightness there. A lot of discussion about the spread of COVID-19 disproportionately impacting communities of color. And while some of our data in New Haven is somewhat preliminary, I wanted to share with you all some of the trends that we're seeing in New Haven that reflect the similar things that we're seeing coming out in larger cities as far as the trends of COVID positive cases. I have 3 slides, and these slides cover, the first one covers the COVID positive cases in New Haven, and there is on your left broken down by race and ethnicity, the number of people that have identified or that have been tested and have tested positive. And then on the right is a heat map. It's really important to underscore that this graph on the left is only the people that have tested positive. We currently do not have information on the race and ethnicity of everyone who has been tested. So this data is not complete in that we don't have an understanding fully of the breakdown of all the races that have been tested to get a sense of whether this is an accurate reflection fully of what's going on in New Haven, or just a reflection of the types of people that are being tested, the different races and ethnicities are being tested. However, and you can also see that the testing facilities are not fully capturing, because they're not fully capturing the race and ethnicity of everyone they're testing. So there's 39% of the individuals in New Haven that are still unknown to us. However, you can see both by the heat map and this the graph that the communities in New Haven that are significantly impacted by COVID-19, in that the communities that have the more concentrated areas of positive test results are primarily communities of color. I want to go on a second map here if I can. So this is hospitalizations. This is a smaller number of people. I believe it's around 100, a little bit over 100 individuals that have been hospitalized because of COVID-19. And you can see here an even larger concentration, particularly of Black and African Americans, but also of Latinx individuals. When you look at the overall percentage of breakdown percentage of population in New Haven, generally it's about a third African American, a third white, and a third Latinx. And so the fact that of the people that are COVID positive that have been hospitalized, 43% of them are Black, is an indication that there's a disproportionate number of people that are impacted severely from a health perspective that are Black. And again, the heat map underscores the same phenomenon. This final graph is a much smaller number of people, so it's difficult to identify significant trends because we're talking about, I think it's 13 people in all. And so the data can often be skewed because there's a very small number of people. But this is the number of COVID-related deaths so far in the city, broken down by race, and the heat map of that. I think it's important to share this information because there's been some concern about misinformation about who the virus is impacting, how this is spread, but also it helps advise the community in New Haven and beyond about how we might react more aggressively to address the areas and populations that are more heavily impacted. We've seen some data coming out of other large cities that indicate similar trends, and we're interested in working together to respond to this information as quickly as possible so that we can make sure that we're slowing the spread of the virus. And in particular, this is, I think, indicating that communities of color, for a variety of different reasons, are much more significantly impacted by COVID-19. Why don't I open it up to questions? I'm going to go to Mary O'Leary first. Do you have any questions, Mary?
I do. I guess do you know how many people are in the Best Western Hotel that are actually new individuals to the shelter system?
So you always ask me a new tough question. So there are 99 individuals at the Best Western.
Mm-hmm.
I do not know how many are new to the shelter system. My understanding is that the individuals that were placed there were already existing in the shelter system. I can double check to see if there were any that were new. But my understanding is that the vast majority, if not all, were already in the shelter system.
All right. I know some state officials have talked about having, some capacity for people that are just coming in to the system.
I think that's one of the reasons why our goal for the number of hotel rooms is higher than the existing ones. So our goal is 300, and that's why we're still working on additional on another site.
Okay. So where are they? My understanding is that formerly Emmanuel Baptist Shelter in Grand is empty now. Is that empty? Is it?
So my understanding is that Columbus House is empty, and then the two sites that were supposed to be relocated to the second site in West Haven were the Grand Avenue Shelter and also Omega in the West River neighborhood.
Okay. And state official yesterday said that maybe this is for capacity as things go on, but that Grand Avenue and Omega, the capacity would be cut in half so that, if there aren't hotel rooms, that people could be still sheltered there, there'd be enough room for social distancing. Is that your understanding?
That's not my understanding, but I would like to confirm with Dr. Jalal, who's been much more directly involved in this the conversation, and frankly, it's been changing every day, given some of the changes in the number of people that are of need and also the availability of hotel space.
Right. That was Steve DeLillo. He's he's part of the Department of Housing of the state, and that's what he said. So
Okay.
maybe it's changed. Thanks.
Yep. I saw Tom's hand up.
Yes, thank you. Well, I guess while we're talking about the West Haven hotel deal, I spoke with Noel Petra at the Department of Administrative Services today, and he said that the state struck a deal with the Best Western to rent 100 rooms. And you said 99 individuals have moved in so far. Do you have a sense of how many people are sharing a room, and whether this was the city a signatory on this agreement as well, or was this entirely the state?
The city is not, it's a state agreement. My understanding is that there are additional rooms that are available for, at the request of the city of West Haven, for individuals that they would provide a list to the state that they wish to house there as well, that my understanding is are also homeless. So I'm not exactly sure just how many people are doubled up in rooms versus how many people are in single rooms.
And do you have a sense if people will be moving in who weren't necessarily at Grand Avenue Shelter or Omega House, but may have just been homeless in New Haven and needed a place to stay?
I'm not clear. It's a little bit similar to Mary's question. I'm happy to try to get that information.
Thank you. Thank you very much for presenting those breakdowns by race and ethnicity that you were able to provide. How do you interpret that data right now? I mean, why do you think that areas of New Haven that are disproportionately Black and brown are being harder hit? And also, you don't have to have the answer to everything right now, but what is it that you think the city can do to, now that you have that data available in public, how do you hope to respond?
Yes.
Sure. It's maybe I'll take a stab at it, and then Director Bond, you can also jump in. But my sense, and it's hard, I'm sure that there are many complicated reasons for the phenomenon, but my sense is that there's a lot of different reasons. That income inequality is one, that underlying health conditions, oftentimes communities of color have additional underlying health conditions that make them more vulnerable, and so you can see the increased hospitalization rate could potentially go up because of that. It's more difficult for people that are of a lower income bracket to self-isolate. It is more difficult for people to telework because there are many people that are in service industry jobs that are unable to work on a computer at home. There are more people that rely on public transportation that may expose them more to other people. I think there are many different reasons why this is likely the case. And to this question of what do we do about it, I think that there's a number of things that we can do. We're exploring the ability of standing up more testing sites to provide a quick turnaround for individuals that may not have been tested, so that we can promote people self-isolating more. The work that we've been doing, identifying other sites in the city where people who may not be able to self-isolate because they say live at home with a family, where they can't separate out the rooms, is an effort to allow people to self-isolate so they don't expose their families. And frankly, I'd like to have more conversations with leadership in communities of color in New Haven now that we are more aware of this information, so that we can all work together to try to understand what's the best way to respond. Director Bond, do you have anything to add?
No, I think that I have one thing to add, but you covered a lot of the basis that I would suggest. The other thing that we're doing is increasing awareness and really getting the word out through different platforms. And so we also kicked off a public health campaign called Spread the Facts, Not the Virus. And so we're rolling out different messaging to also increase our awareness to the public.
Thank you very much for both of those answers.
Sure.
Mayor, I saw that you signed on to a letter with several other mayors of big cities in Connecticut requesting that the state legislature basically extend the current moratorium on evictions. I believe that the proposed legislation said that tenants wouldn't be able to be evicted until 30 days after an emergency ends. Could you speak a bit about why you decided to sign on to that letter, why you think that's important?
Yeah, I think that for two reasons, it's very important that people are allowed to stay in their home and kind of weather this economic and health storm. One is from an economic perspective, if people all of a sudden don't have a place to live, it causes all kinds of different and more complex issues. And the housing first model is one that many cities have adopted because people need a baseline of a place to live in order to succeed in so many other ways. It's everything from being able to take a shower to having some emotional stability by having a place to lay your head. But the second reason is from a health perspective in this crisis, this is going to go on for quite some time. And you all have seen just how challenging it's been for us to identify locations where individuals that do not have a place to live can self-isolate, can practice social distancing. And if all of a sudden we have 200 more people that are homeless in the city, from a health perspective, that is going to put everyone at the city in much more risk because as everyone now is understanding, one person getting this can spread it to many people, and the virus doesn't doesn't care what you look like or where you come from, and so it's very important that we make sure that we're providing every opportunity for people to practice social distancing, and the most effective way to do that is to make sure that people have a home to stay in.
Thank you. And then two very quick questions. You probably saw that elections went forward in Wisconsin yesterday, I think much to the shock of a lot of people considering the declared state of emergency. Watching those long lines play out and people don PPEs, they go to vote in person. What were you thinking as you watched that, and what would you most like to see in terms of how Connecticut's election plays out, both the primary in June and then the one in November? I saw that Governor Lamont was quoted in the Mirror saying that he's pushing for mail-in ballots and no excuse absentees. But were you following what was happening in Wisconsin, and how did that make you think about New Haven?
I was following it some, and frankly, I was deeply disappointed about the decision that was made. My understanding is that the legislature was going against the advice of the governor on what should actually happen there. If that's correct, I was listening to an NPR, and to put people in a decision where they need to choose between democracy and their life is deeply irresponsible, especially when there's other options available for people to access democracy in a safe way. I think that ultimately, there's been a lot of talk at the national level in particular about we got to get over this thing and get the economy running again. Well, the right way to get the economy running again is to invest in testing and to invest in contact tracing. And the reason for that is because once we get over this peak, we will need to very aggressively test many, many people. And when we identify positive cases, follow those people and where they went and make sure that everyone that they interacted with self-isolates if they are also likely to have contracted the virus. That's the only way that we're going to get this thing under control. And I find it very disappointing that the dialogue at the national level is focusing on some rosy picture of what should happen rather than giving us the tools to make what should happen actually happen. My sense with the response in Wisconsin is a denial of the difficult decisions that we need to make to ensure the safety of the public. And I'm hopeful that at a minimum in the state of Connecticut, we can make the right decisions. My sense is the governor is trying to do just that.
And then my last question for you is, I think we're nearing your first 100 days in office, and I'm sure that these have gone quite differently than you anticipated when you first came in. Could you reflect for a second on that for us in terms of maybe what you are proudest of in terms of what your administration has accomplished so far in its first 100 days?
Sure. We didn't accomplish what I had intended to accomplish in the first 100 days. And it's funny when you think about when we put so much effort to and released the budget, was that a month ago or something like that, and how different the world is today. Our mindset of what's important, I don't think has changed necessarily. That it's just the urgency of some of the issues in front of us has changed. And the graphs I just showed you underscore one of the reasons, probably one of the main reasons I ran for mayor, and also underscored just how important the work that we do continues to be about income inequality and the disparities that exist that are exposed, I think, very clearly in this virus. The 100 days is the original 100 days plan is going to take more than 100 days to accomplish, but those things will be accomplished. And obviously no one expected us to be in this circumstance now. A lot of people said, oh, I bet you never imagined when you ran for mayor that you would have to deal with this. I don't think any of us imagined that we would have to deal with this. What makes me most proud is our team and the residents of New Haven who have spent so much time and effort and energy trying to do the right thing and trying to be flexible and supportive of their neighbors, of their colleagues, business owners that are really struggling financially, that are giving food to our first responders, people wearing masks in the community because they know that's the right thing to do, and staying away from each other while at the same time getting closer to each other emotionally with inspiring things like putting teddy bears in windows and having afternoon cocktail hour on each other's porches, but just far away from each other on each other's porches. And the incredible effort that our team has put in under very, very difficult situations, not having taken a day off in a month. Those things make me proud.
Well, thank you again for hosting these every day. And that's it for me. Thank you for fielding my questions.
Sure. Anybody have any other questions? I see Mackenzie.
Questions. Mayor, I have a few questions on behalf of some other YDN reporters. The first is for a story on Yale Emergency Support New Haven, which is about 50 some grad students who are working with your office on the COVID response. We're wondering how those students are being utilized and what tasks they're working on for the city.
I think this is a question for Director Bond, but I like how you said that you're asking on behalf of someone else. It sounds like I have a friend that has a problem, but Director Bond, is this the 50 students that you're working with, or is this a different group of people?
It could be a different group. So there's many students working on these efforts and doing a variety of projects. And so if you can clarify which type of students you're referring to, then I can probably give you a better answer.
It's called Yale Emergency Support New Haven, and it's about 50 mostly grad students.
They're not working with my department.
Why don't you tell them who's working with you and what they're doing?
Yeah, so we have a group of over 50 students that are working with us through the Yale School of Public Health and our Yale Medical School. And so they're working with us on on doing contact tracing, and we're all trained individuals, went through a proper training, and then are assisting us in expanding our efforts with contact tracing.
All right, thanks so much. And then one more question for you, Mayor. I'm wondering if you have any comment on the lawsuit recently filed against yourself, Governor Lamont, and a few others, kind of against the stay-at-home orders that some business owners are alleging impacted them financially in a way that they deserve compensation for, and specific comments about your comments that destroyed the reputation of 50s.
Given that it is a pending lawsuit, I have no comment.
All right, thanks so much.
Or ongoing, it's not pending, it's an ongoing lawsuit.
All right, and that's all from me right now.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You said that there might be more stand-up testing sites. I know reports from the Young Haven Hospital yesterday is that they seem to be they have other avenues to get tests back. They seem to be coming back faster. So where would these stand-up sites be? And actually, I guess maybe to help the neighborhoods that you just said seem to be impacted more by the virus.
I think we're in pretty early conversations right now. I can say that Fairhaven Health Clinic and Cornell Scott are doing some testing on a very small scale. I know that Yale University is doing testing on a small scale. I understand the governor just announced earlier today about CVS potentially doing some testing in New Haven. And we're in conversations about other possibilities as well. It seems clear as day from many conversations with epidemiologists that we've had that testing combined with contact tracing is the way that we're going to beat this in the long run.
All right. Anything you mentioned, it would be nice to have facilities where people that need shelter, I mean, kind of like the things that are happening at Yale, at the university, any contracts with them, any more discussions about who might be able to use that facility beyond who's there already?
Yes, there are more discussions.
But nothing signed at this point.
No, we're making progress.
Also, can we have those graphs? I mean, can you send them in some form? I mean, we took notes, but if you...
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I'll double check with Director Bond, but I think so because they're high enough level that they're not identifying individuals.
Right. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Tom, go ahead. Trying to unmute you, Tom. Gage, do you know why it's not muting Tom? Is it just picking on him for some? There it is.
Oh, there I am. Thank you. This is for Dr. Tracy and Mr. Pinto. I just wanted to make sure I understood. Are the same number of schools in the same locations will be distributing food? It's just this every other date schedule that's going to be adopted, or are there different venues?
Same locations.
Thank you very much. That was it.
You're welcome.
All right, is everyone good?
Actually, one more question.
Go for it.
Does it always happen? I mean, when the meals are distributed on Friday, that it covers the entire weekend? I thought.
Yes. Yes.
It does. It always has and
Yes.
will. Okay.
Yes, that's what we do. Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate the time. Take care.